Welcome to the Early Wedge presented by BetMGM. I am your host, EC, otherwise known as Eric Cohen. We have a great show for you tonight. Sia Nejad going to be a little bit late, but so it'll be Patrick and me just to start. But how about last weekend? Your boy finally brought one home. Someone, I mean, listen, Bryson DeChambeau was not a long shot like Patrick hit in Mexico with Jake Knapp at 65-1, but still, I'm on the board, and it was a great time out at Pinehurst. And we will talk about all of that and more. Let's bring in the star of the show for now. The one, the only, I'm telling you, he has a tweet today that has been seen by 1.3 million people and has 30,000 likes. None other than Patrick McDonald from CBS Sports. Hey, so this weekend, Bryson, Rory, did Bryson win it? Did Rory choke?
Well, first, I need to get the engagement up on social media because I'm not hitting outright tickets like yourself, right? So kudos to you.
You hit one earlier in the year.
Take a bow, take the victory lap. You know, there's no shame in it, right? Absolutely indulge in it. Who did Rory lose it or did Bryson win it? I think that's a great question. I think as we look back on it, Rory's going to get bailed out, I would say, a little bit, because if Bryson made a traditional conventional par on 18, fairway green 2-putt, we remember Rory McIlroy's collapse, honestly.
Great point.
He got to 8 under with 4 holes to play. He bogeyed 3 out of his last 4, missed a 2.5-footer. The putt on 18 was tough, not a great stroke, whatever. Because Bryson DeChambeau hit one of, in my golf watching career, one of the best shots in major championship history, we're going to remember that. So Bryson won.
I mean, okay, that's fair. I actually would have said the opposite. I would have said, Rory, when you're 496 of 496 inside of 4 feet, going into the back 9 at the U.S. Open, and you miss 2 in the final 3 holes, that's kind of a choke to me. I mean, I get it.
That's fair.
The other thing I learned about being at Pinehurst, and I was telling you and Jake this before the show, when you're out at a golf crowd, and everybody, if you're watching the show, you got to go to a U.S. Open. It's the most dramatic day in golf. A Sunday at the U.S. Open is the most dramatic day of golf. You have to zig when other people zag. So when all the crowds are gathering in one place, instead of being 10 deep, try to get creative. So I went to the first tee. They have stands there. I got a perfect view of 18. Go check out my Twitter. You'll see I posted a video of Bryson winning that putt, or hit the winning putt. Watch Rory and his reaction. Patrick, do you think Rory, the sportsmanship thing was a problem, and do you have a problem with him skipping this week's event, the Travelers?
Were you the one chanting USA, USA after he?
Do you think I would do that?
18?
You think I would do that?
That was you.
That was never me. No.
I thought I saw you and heard you through the broadcast booing at some points as well.
Never. You got to understand, I'm too busy trying to record social media videos for my flailing Twitter and not getting 1.3 million views like somebody else on this screen that I'm sharing it with. No, but I mean, seriously, though, is Rory a poor sport for the way that he reacted to Bryson winning and getting out of there and then bailing this week?
Yes.
Simply put,
I don't think it's a great look for him. Even if he just talked to like Damon Hack or someone with NBC for 15 seconds, said really tough finish, yada, 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 and then got out of Dodge, I think he's probably regretting the mistake because everyone has an opinion on it now. And then missing this week, look, I get it from the mentals perspective. That's probably the most devastating loss of his career. I think it's worse than the 2011 Masters just because of where he is in his career and with the decade-long drought and all that goes along with it. But he's also one of the guys who pushed for these type of events, and for him not to be here, it's tough. And it's the second time in 2 years he skipped a designated event or a signature event right after a major championship. He skipped Harbortown last year to deal with pretty much being sad.
Our guy Sia Nejad, welcome. Glad you were able to join us here. I know you were
filibustering.
Patrick did a great job of holding the fort down. All right, so Sia, your thoughts on what you saw at Pinehurst, and is Rory being a poor sport by not showing up this week?
Well, I mean, I think it was one of the biggest collapses that I've seen in golf, particularly by somebody who you just wouldn't expect such a collapse from. With that said, the poor sport thing, I mean, yeah, kind of. I think leaving in that moment kind of makes sense to me because it was just so completely soul crushing. Like, I understand why you would just say, oh, like, I'm out of here. I think not playing the Travelers is a little bit, it's 20% poor sportsmanship and 80% just a bad move. I mean, first of all, there's a lot of money on the table. Maybe that doesn't mean much to Rory, but if you want to get this stuff out of your system, and if you want to get the narrative spun to something in the future, you play in this tournament, and whatever you have left for this week, whether you finish T6, T60, or first place, that is going to take over the last thing that people remember about you as you go to the Scottish Open, as you go to the Open Championship. At this point, you're just prolonging a narrative that doesn't need to exist for 3 weeks. So for me, I would have gone right. I know it's tough. It's easy for me to say, but also you're a pro. Like, go back out there, play the signature event, collect a ton of money, probably play pretty well. And then all of a sudden, when you're going overseas, people aren't talking so much about the last thing they saw, which was really a big time choke job.
Yeah, 100%. That's a great point, Sia. That's a great point. All right, let's talk about the Olympic team. So they finalized this today, and no Bryson DeChambeau. First of all, Patrick, well, yeah, we'll start here. Your thoughts on the 4 players that made the team, and then we'll move on to other things.
Look, they're the top 4 players ranked in the OWGR, and that's the way the International Golf Federation decided to do qualification. And so we got who we got: Scheffler, Xander, Collin, and Wyndham Clark. I know, obviously, the internet, the masses, want Bryson DeChambeau on there instead of Wyndham Clark, right? We get a comment in there: Wyndham Clark made the team. Ouch. And I get it, right? Wyndham Clark has not played great the past couple months. But at the same time, the same people who want him off the team were probably calling him a top 5 player in the world the first 3 months of the year, first 4 months of the year. So it would be awesome if Bryson was in Paris. That would be great. But unfortunately, that's not how the qualification went. And they're not going to change it midway through with all the LIV stuff that happened. It was always going to be this. And so he knew it was a risk when he went over to LIV.
All right, Sia, I can ask you about the 4 players, or I can ask you about the uniforms, because Patrick opined a little bit earlier and got a bunch of likes, including some feedback from, well, you'll tell us about that. Sia, give us your thoughts on the uniforms themselves.
I mean, it's funny only because I now know what Patrick McDonald tweeted. And so what's funny, I was preparing for my Monumental Sports show about an hour and a half ago, and Meg McDonald, who has worked with Patrick before on By the Book, was like, have you seen Patrick's tweet? And I said, no. And I looked at it and I see 21,000 likes and like 500 or 400 retweets. And I'm like instantly jealous. Like, I'm like, oh man, like this, Patrick, you always deliver. Like, that's the thing. I think it's so under the radar. Everything you tweet out, everything you say is absolute gold. I think they look exactly like that. And somebody in the chat suggested, hey, we need the 3 of us and Jake the Snake on this thing. So anybody who's good at photoshopping, just take those faces off, put our faces on, tag us at SportsLine, and that'll be a fun little exercise.
I'd love that.
That's outstanding. I'll give him props for that. Patrick, you've heard from some people today regarding this tweet. What's the feedback on the uniforms and your tweet, especially?
Well, the woman who made the graphic unfortunately replied to the tweet. She wasn't too thrilled with my comments. She told me to give it a rest. As for the uniforms, Jay Lindeberg, Victor Hovland's going to feel right at home in Paris, so maybe buy stock in Vic at Le Golf National. But from what I've seen, the early releases of the polo, they're going to be a sight to behold. Really, and I do have to apologize to Joe Neuenfeld. The only recent sports memory I could remember of what was comparable to Rory McIlroy was Blair Walsh 2015 NFC wildcard game, 27-yard field goal to win against the Seahawks. That's really the first thing that popped to mind. You could say Bill Buckner. I wasn't alive for that, though. And so I'm sorry to Minnesota. I apologize. You got dragged into this mess. I never meant for that to be the case. So I am sorry. I love Minnesota, Mall of America, Eagan, Minnesota. Used to work out there a little bit. So on me.
Hey, it was negative like 10 that game, I think, wind chill. So 27-yard field goal, not as easy. Still, I think it was really cold. Yeah, in that game, nonetheless.
Teddy?
It's a good. I thought it was a good analogy. Yeah, it's a good analogy that you made.
I feel like it wasn't that cold. I feel like that game was normal conditions. I was watching that game. I don't remember. Joe will know.
Joe, tell us. I think it was like negative. Yeah, something like very, very cold. All right, nonetheless. Sia, storylines. What do you got for us this week in Hartford? You got anything for us after all that?
Not really. I mean, I think this is just going to be interesting to see if Scotty rebounds from last week. Obviously, a totally different course. He could absolutely dominate. We've seen with these signature events, Scotty tend to dominate, whether it's a signature or major. He gets 4 rounds like he always does, mind you, but that does tend to separate the superstars from the field. I do think we're going to get somebody at the top. I think it's fun to consider long shots, and I think this is the type of course that lends itself to long shots winning. But when you look at the like 30 to 4, I shouldn't say 30. When you look at like the 45, 50, 60, 70 to 1 shots, I just don't think over 4 rounds they're going to eclipse guys like Scotty Scheffler, guys like Colin Morikawa, Xander Schauffele, you name it. There's like 5 or 10 guys that I think over 4 rounds are really going to be able to separate themselves. So that's actually where my outright card is focused. It's a very short outright card. I've got 2 for this show. I'm going to add another one based on what we talk about on the show, maybe some suggestions from the crowd here, from the chat. But I'm going to have like 2 relatively short shots, and I'm going to have one in that I'm considering 3 in like the 35 to 50, 55 to 1 range, and I'm calling it a day on outrights.
I got one for you later in the show, and some more rationale, just like I played last week. But Patrick, your storyline also kind of, are you fading Scotty here? Is that kind of where you're going with this?
You know, I'm not really like confident in Scotty Scheffler this week, right? I think it's a great week for one of these guys to pick up a win. You look at the odds board: Morikawa, Ludwig, Victor, Cantlay, Fleetwood, Henley, Burns, Finau, Thigala, Connors. None of them have won. Spieth, Homa, Thomas, Siwoo Kim. No one has won in this field near the top of the odds board. So I think it's obviously a big week for them. And then you look at a couple names. Victor Hovland's barely inside the top 50 in the FedEx Cup. Jordan Spieth is outside the top 50 in the FedEx Cup. Obviously, we have a couple months left, but that's in the back of my mind right now, going into the late summer.
For me, I saw a little bit of Scotty Scheffler when I was able to walk the course on Friday and Sunday. And is it time to fade Scotty after what we saw at Pinehurst? Now, the approach numbers were really good, but the putting was so bad. I mean, so like, I don't want to say it rivaled mine because I like to think I'm a decent putter, but I'm not Scotty Scheffler. Let's not kid ourselves. He wasn't good. And he finished he never he didn't post a round under par, which is shocking. I think that was the first time in 160 rounds, something like that, Patrick, that he was over par, or what was it? That he didn't have a birdie on Friday. Didn't have a birdie. Yeah.
It was first time in 120 professional starts that he carded 4 over par rounds in a row.
That's the EC jinx right there. So do you fade him this week? And is the play here to not play the Scotty, or like, do you play the outright market as a whole, or do you play it without Scotty and Xander? That's we'll discuss that a little bit later in the show. But now it is time for DFS. Unfortunately, Grayson Sigg is not in the field. You know, it's funny because I write this article on sportsline.com, and I'm putting all these, players towards the top 10. And then I look at the fades for my guys here, and they're fading 2 guys that I have in the top 6. What can I say? All right, Sia, we'll start with you. Why aren't we fading Cantlay? Now, I know he's on my outright fade. We know he's not going to win, but he still played well, and he does have 6 straight top 15s at this course.
So I think my issue with Cantlay is, as I look at the DFS pricing, first of all, I'm looking around to see who's next to him from a pricing standpoint. And it's just a question of who I would rather play at a cheaper or slightly more expensive price. And when I consider that, and I consider Cantlay played really well last week. I mean, I thought, I don't want to say he got lucky, but the short game, he was really dialed in. I don't think that's going to be as big of an impact here. And I know he's got really good course history, but I just don't think I can look at last week and say, okay, that's going to translate for the rest of the season. Even though he's a superstar, and that could very well happen, I look at guys like Victor Hovland, who are $300 less, or Hideki Matsuyama, $400 less, or Colin Morikawa, who's only $200 more, or Ludwig, who I absolutely love this week, who's only $600 more. That's who I'm going with. So I'm not going with a guy that flashed on a completely different course in spite of his good course history. So it's not that I think he's going to do terribly, but he's just not somebody I'm interested in outright, and certainly not in DFS as well. I think he's going to regress a little bit, and I think people who play him in DFS are going to be like, oh, that's the Patrick Cantlay I know and love from 2024. As far as guys I'm playing, I'm looking for guys who can ball strike and guys who can putt. And Connors is not a guy we think of that can putt, but he's actually really spiked in 2 of his last 3, which is an extremely small sample size, but he's also been good here in spite of his putter. So if the putter is going to spike, and by the way, this is one of the longer shot outrights I'm at least considering, if the spike is going to come from the putter like it has in 2 of the last 3, and he's already been good here without the putter, then I think he's a really good DFS play. He's also going to be very popular. I'll just put that out there right now. And percentages are going to be a lot higher. This is a no-cut, only a 71-person event. Taylor Pendrith, I think, is a little sneaky. I think off the tee, it leaves a little to be desired, but his putter has been on fire. And if you look at his finishing positions at all kinds of different courses over the last 6 or 7 events, Taylor Pendrith is back from whatever was ailing him the last couple of years. Taylor Pendrith is looking really good. I think he's a steal at 7,200, again, in a no-cut event where I think he can really light it up with his putter. Lee Hodges, I'm just looking for salary relief. He is obviously, we've talked about him on this show. He's really flashed. Like him at 6,400. I think there's several good 6K options, but I think Lee Hodges offers some of the upside that maybe some of the other 6K options don't offer.
So Patrick, I like to make these parlays during the tournament, like after Friday. I like to put in like a placement parlay just to get some action, over the weekend. Last week, I decided against my better judgment to include one Jordan Spieth. Thinking, you know what, maybe he can top 20. Well, I mean, that was over by like the 5th hole on Saturday. Why? I know he's won here, but why? Why are we playing Jordan Spieth at 8,200?
I think it's finally the time. You see, it's post major championship. A lot of thoughts going on in my head. Actually, not a lot of thoughts going on in my head. Just completely drained. Dumb it down. He hit his irons as good as he has in 2024 last week. They were terrific. And the driver continues to be an absolute weapon as well. So I think this is a great golf course for him. He's obviously won here as well. The putter was atrocious, just so bad last year. We get him back off Bermuda. And so I think he has a lot of potential this week. So I'm going to bank on it. No one wants to play Jordan Spieth. No one should play Jordan Spieth. That is why I am going to play Jordan Spieth at $8,200. Sepp Straka, I've been calling him Giuseppe Straka, the septic tank. Fun fact, his full name's actually Josef Straka.
That's my middle name.
Fun fact. Okay. Yeah. Very cool. A lot of synergies going.
I love Straka this week, by the way, as well. And you could just throw him on my DFS list as well.
All right. Say no more. He's playing great. I mean, he's top 5 in everything. Memorial, Harbor Town, Charles Schwab. Ball striking was great last week. Had the hole-in-one, which certainly helps the stats. Putting was just poor. But this is a great course fit for him. This is the type of golf course Sepp Straka is going to win at. And I think he has real chance to win this golf tournament. Sia said he likes good putters. Few better putters than Billy Horschel. Ball striking wasn't great last week, but you put him on a shorter ballpark, right? Smaller. Put the ball in the fairway. A lot of wedge opportunities this week. That's where Billy Horschel is going to thrive. Hideki Matsuyama, I'm going to fade. The off the tee game's a little bit concerning. I think it wasn't great at Pinehurst. He got bailed out a ton. Was just missing fairways left and right. Everywhere else was obviously pretty good, but I'm going to fade him at 92. It's only his second start here. So, and first time he's going 3 weeks in a row in months. So I think there could be a little fatigue. And forgot to mention, he just got added to Boston Commons Golf for TGL. That's a huge high for him. Someone like Hideki.
Oh, I'm sure that's definitely going to throw him off this week. He did play well here last year on debut. I think he was in the top 15. I will be playing Hideki. Of course, you and I had to differ on something this week. No surprise. All right, Sia. Everybody waits for this every week. You came so close the other week. I don't think anybody in their right mind would have picked Patrick Cantlay last week to be FRL. No. What do you got for us this week?
I've only got 2 for now. Like, my card for this show is a little shorter than normal. There's a couple of things that happened today where I needed to push some of this stuff back. Listen, it's a 71-person event, so I'm not going to have like 5 first-round leaders. Typically, I'm coming to the show with 4. I may only have an additional one beyond these 2, maybe 1 or 2, depending on how short the odds are with my third person. But Sepp Straka. Listen, he's another one of the guys in that 35 to 55 to 1 range that I'm considering as my third and last outright. But I certainly like him in the first round leader department for obvious reasons. He can absolutely spike with the putter and with the ball striking. Really like him at 40 to 1. By the way, both of these guys are morning tee times. I do think the morning's going to have an advantage. I do think, and again, this could change, but it's going to be a little windier as the afternoon progresses. Now, we're not going to have this wide swath of tee times, right? Because we only have 71 players, but there's still like a pretty big difference between going off at around 9 in the morning versus, 1 or 2 o'clock. So just something to consider. My other guy is Taylor Pendrith. I don't think he can win this tournament, but he's been so red hot with the putter. And if he's dialed in with the ball striking, he could absolutely be your first round leader. By the way, I think both of these are at BetMGM. Both of these numbers are at BetMGM. One's at DraftKings maybe, but I think they're both at BetMGM.
I am with you on Pendrith. I will mention him later in the program. Coming up next, it looks like Sia is doing Patrick dirty in one of his matchups. We'll see what I mean here after we hear from one of our sponsors. If you watch this show every week, you know that everybody has their favorite golfers, and then there's me who I fade every week. Patrick loves a Grayson Sigg, and another one of his players that he always likes to play is one Adam Scott. So see, normally I would let Patrick go first. He's got 3 matchups, but you're fading in your one matchup Patrick's boy, the great Australian Adam Scott. Why?
So this is interesting. I only have the one. Again, for my article, I'll add probably at least one more, maybe a nationality play as well. Adam Scott earlier this season, the ball striking and really all the metrics were kind of speaking to me. And yet he was finishing like in very like pedestrian numbers, like 30th or 40th or 55th or whatever it is. But now I've seen the ball striking regress a little bit. And the putter has also regressed. Again, short sample size, but I believe 3 out of the last 4 he's lost with the putter. Whereas you look with Shane Lowry, we've seen him be terrible with the putter. But overall, he's been pretty good with the putter as it relates to Adam Scott. And I do think this is a really good course fit for Shane Lowry as well. So I like the minus 110 number. I just think Adam Scott's one of those guys over 4 rounds where he'll be like slightly above average. And Shane Lowry will be a little below average, a little above average, and then he'll have that spike round where he just pours it in and he's like 6 under and leading the field in round 3 on Saturday. And I think that's enough to get it done over 4 rounds for Shane Lowry.
Patrick, do you respect Sia's logic there?
Yeah, that's totally fair. I've gotten off the Adam Scott train in the last month, so I'm not as privy to his numbers as early season as I was.
Can we start a Patrick fade list? Is that what this means?
No.
No. Okay, we're not there
For the
yet.
record,
No.
I sent you guys the picture. Grayson Sigg at one point in the U.S. Open, first
you
page
did.
of the leaderboard. First page of the leaderboard.
That's right.
I really wanted to go follow him and find him on the golf course when I was out there, just so I can get a picture and be like, Grayson, I know your biggest fan. Okay, nonetheless, you're friends with him, I believe. So I think he already knows that. All right, you have 3 matchups this week. I don't think Benny On has ever been referred to as Benny On ever on this program before, but now you're fading him against Bez. Why is that?
Yeah, both these guys have terrible course history here. I don't think Bez has made a cut in 2 tries. Benny On, not much better. But I'm going to go with the South African minus 110 over him. He's playing great golf, quiet top 5 finish there at the Memorial. You put him on a short golf course. He's very accurate off the tee. Great wedge player as well, and a very good putter. I think he has a lot of upside this week. And Benny On, this isn't a course I see Benny On having fun with. So I'm going to go with him. Siwoo Kim minus 110 over Matt Fitzpatrick at that same number as well. Siwoo Kim last 3 signature events, all top 20 finishes. I just think he has a much higher floor than Fitzpatrick right now. Fitzpatrick had that quiet, sneaky backdoor top 5 at Jack's Place. That was a lot of putting, but outside that, it hasn't been great so far this year. So I'll take the South Korean, and then Sepp Straka minus 115 over Justin Thomas. This is a revenge play for me. I bet on Justin Thomas last week. Do I regret it? Because his tournament was done in maybe an hour and a half, 2 hours? Yes, I do. That happens. Substraka, love him every which way this week. Hopefully it doesn't come back to bite us in the butt, but I like him in this matchup a ton over JT.
Good picks. I'm going to play a couple of plus money choices here. Sahith over Victor Hovland, plus 115 on DraftKings. In 10 tournaments this year, Vic has lost strokes around the greens in 9 of them. Ball striking's been good, but when he gets on or around the greens, it's a train wreck. So I'll pass on that. He has in 3 appearances, a T11 is his top finish. Theegala, now how about what he did last week? Started out with a 77. You're like, this guy's toast. And he still finished in the top 40 after it was all said and done. Pretty darn resilient to do that. And he was T2 here in 2022. I think we're on the fade Vic train. So we will do that once again, plus 115. Then I'm going with Brian Harman over Siwoo Kim and Keegan Bradley at plus 140 in a 3-ball tournament matchup on DK. Harman has been in the top 8 here 5 of the last 6 years. I will bet him every single which way this week as I can. Listen, this is not a long course. The guy can putt with the best of them. And he has a great course history, so you got to roll with that. Siwoo Kim missed the cut here in 4 of the last 5. I think you mentioned that, Patrick. Not very good course history. Keegan Bradley was awesome here last year. He won going away, but he's truly a boomer bust player. He's lost strokes off the tee in 5 of his last 7. I think that's important here. Maybe not in as good a form as he was last year. I'm going to take a gamble here at plus 140 and roll with Harman over Kim and Keegan Bradley. Now on to the finishing positions. Sia, yours have the same player in both, and you're kind of giving a foreshadowing of your outright play. Why do we like Ludwig Åberg after what he did to my outright position on Saturday on the 13th hole when the guy looked like me trying to chip up on the...
Well, partly because I don't think chipping's going to be really difficult here. I mean, and that goes for like Victor Hovland as well. Like, I don't think you're going to see the tight lies that they were having to really debate how they wanted to play them. I mean, like Tony Finau, for example, took himself out of the tournament because he made a bad decision not chipping on, I can't remember what hole it was in round
13.
3.
Same hole.
13.
Same thing.
Okay, fair enough. So, I mean, and it was just a complete disaster. Like, I don't think we're going to have that problem where you're not going to know what to do. I think it's going to be pretty straightforward around the green. So, listen, I mean, we've talked about Ludwig enough. This is a unique way that I'm playing this. And I saw something on DraftKings specifically, because that's where I got these numbers. And I know BetMGM is really the class of like paying out the finishing positions and ties and all of that. But DraftKings isn't as bad as FanDuel on that. So I just want to point that out, that the top 30 market for these guys, Ludwig combined with Corey Connors, Ludwig combined with Russell Henley, was vastly different, like vastly shorter than some of these other books. So I went ahead and took it. I mean, I do think, like, I'm only asking on the front end of this, Ludwig to finish in the top 30. Pretty comfortable with that outside of a withdrawal, which I guess is, possible. He had a knee issue, whatever. But what I get to do with Corey Connors and Russell Henley in the top 30 market is, instead of paying the minus 170 or minus 180 or whatever it is now, minus 220, now I get to combine it with Ludwig Åberg and basically get even money on both of these plays. So that's what I decided to do. Again, I may add to this and just take normal T20s, normal T30s, maybe a Xander top 10. I still probably will add to this a little bit, but I just like this way of playing it because I think the Åberg part is pretty safe outside of a WD. So I've got Ludwig, Corey Connors to both finish inside the top 30 at plus 100, and Ludwig and Russell Henley to both finish inside the top 30 at minus 115.
Sia, we're 29 minutes into the show, and I haven't yet apologized. Speaking of parlays, last week, I owe you a sincere apology because I hate being that guy. So last week, I was talking about parlaying your outright plays with something that you had given out on the early edge earlier that morning. I mean, listen, the Washington Nationals, if you don't know what happened in the first 5 innings last Tuesday night, probably one of the dirtiest beats that we've seen all year. Yes. I had prop stars text me and Jake saying, you should be ashamed of yourself and owe Sia an apology. So this is my public apology. I hate being that guy that mushes anybody's pick. I hate when people do it to me. So I'm not bringing up anything. I saw what you have on the show from this morning. Long sleeves when it feels like it's 110 degree, whatever it was. Maybe, I don't know. Maybe you East Coasters are used to this humidity. I am not in Arizona where it's a dry heat. Nonetheless, Pavon was really good. Gained 5 shots, ball striking in 7 with the putter last week. And as we remember, he was in the final group on Sunday, though he was no threat to ever win the tournament. I think we all knew that. But this is too good of a value at plus 110 for a top 30 in a 71-person tournament for a player on a heater in such a small field. So we're going to roll with Pavon at top 30. Now, where can you bet these? You can do that at BetMGM. If you are not a BetMGM customer, what are you doing? Come on, let's go. New BetMGM customers can sign up today and get up to $1,500 in bonus bets. Just place your first wager of at least $10, and you'll receive up to $1,500 instantly if your bet loses with bonus code EDGE. That's EDGE EDGE. Coming up next, Patrick is violating my outright list. You'll see what I mean here on the Early Wedge.
We need your sports news anywhere.
We've got breaking news to bring you.
Then get your sports anytime you want them. Big trade news overnight to discuss.
Because we know you need sports all the time.
A lot of movement in the rankings this week.
A legend adds to their legacy.
We're bringing you that breaking news right here on HQ.
CBS Sports HQ, anywhere, anytime, all the time.
You know, I saw that the stream kind of went away when I was talking. I don't think that's really a surprise. Kind of wish it had gone off the air during this next part when my outright, do not bet for, yeah. I mean, just imagine if Cantlay had won last week. That would have been painful. Oh, Tony Finau was up there too. Yeah, that wasn't good. Go ahead. Sam Burns, top 10. Yeah. Go ahead.
Let me just tell you precisely when it froze is when you mentioned Patrick Cantlay's name. And then everything cut out. So take that for whatever you want to take it for.
Very interesting.
Yeah, well, that would have been bad if any of those two guys in the middle had won. That would have, I would have been 3 for 3 in the majors. You could have just taken my list, played him to win a major, and yeah, you would have made my. All right, nonetheless, Bryson would never have been on this list. We actually know that he knows how to win. But Patrick, Tommy Fleetwood, why? Yeah. Don't we know this tournament, last I checked, is in the United States. Yeah, I do need to add Zalatoris. J-Par, I agree with you. Patrick, this is in the United States. Tommy Fleetwood does not win in the U.S. Why is he your only outright this week? Well, on this page.
I like the number. I like 35-1 in a 71-man field when, let's be honest, maybe 50 of the guys are probably in good form, maybe even less. And Tommy Fleetwood's doing everything very well at the moment. He isn't doing everything very great at the moment, right? He's gaining across the boards. He's a very good putter, very accurate off the tee. He has all the skill sets you want around TPC River Highlands. So I went with him at 35. I thought it was a good number. It didn't move much. I don't think it moved at all when Rory got out of the field as well. So it's one I'm willing to give out on this show at current price.
All right. Now, Sia, you're going with, I'm a obvious fade on Hovland, but then again, you hit one the other week, Morikawa, in the without Scheffler market. So fine. But you're going with a few shorter price guys. We'll start with Ludwig at plus 1,400. You like the number?
Yeah. I don't love the number. It opened, I think, at plus 1,700, and then it was plus 1,600. And it was actually still plus 1,600 after Rory withdrew at a couple of places, and unfortunately I was late on it, so I actually unfortunately grabbed the plus 1,400 number. I still like it because I actually think he's going to win. I think there's 5 people that are head and shoulders above everybody else, and I'm going off the top of my head, but obviously it's Scotty Scheffler. I think you could make the argument for Colin Morikawa, Xander Schauffele, of course, and I think Ludwig is in that sort of upper crust, that top tier. And then, you get down to the Victor Hovlands and some of these other guys. But I just think Ludwig's so good. I think he could have won last week if it wasn't for that 13th. And again, I attribute that to more of short game that he's not going to see here. We know he can get hot with the putter. You look at any sort of ball striking metrics. He's awesome off the tee. He's accurate and long. His approach play is dialed in. Weighted ball striking, he's one of the higher ones there. He can rack up the birdies. I just think he's unflappable, and I don't love the plus 1,400, but I love it enough to bet it. Victor Hovland is more of a number play. I could have very easily gone with Colin Morikawa, but his number has really shortened up. It's 10-1 in some places, 12-1 in others. And I thought to myself, is he twice as likely to win this tournament as Victor Hovland? I think some might make the argument that he is, but I wouldn't make that argument. And I think Victor Hovland has really the skill set here. If he's honed in with the ball striking, which we know he can be, if he can get hot with the putter, which we know he can do, he's been a winner before. I think the short game issues aren't going to plague him here in Cromwell. I think 20-1 is a pretty generous number. These are Hovland and Morikawa are these guys that might be 22-1 or 20-1 one week. They have one good tournament, and then the next tournament, they're 14-1 or 12-1. I think this Hovland Morikawa experience toggles back and forth, and we happen to be getting value on the Hovland number, and that's why I'm willing to take it.
All right. Well, you guys are brave to go with the outrights, including Scheffler and Schauffele. Now, I think this is probably a fade Scotty situation. I don't like his number at sub 4-1. Xander won here a couple of years ago. I think there's value there. So you know what? I'm just going to avoid those guys again. I'm taking the easy way out. So be it. So we're going to go with a couple or four different plays here, over 20-1. We got Tony Finau, whose last 4 finishes on tour, T18, 17th, 8th, 3rd, getting better every week. That's a good sign. Sam Burns, who's also with Finau on my do not bet outright list, but technically this doesn't count. He has 2 top 10s and 4 top 15s in his last 5 tournaments. Gained nearly 8 shots putting at Pinehurst, was fantastic. I mentioned Sahith Theegala at plus 2,200. And then Brian Harman, absolutely love this week, plus 2,500. That is my one and done choice for those of you who do one and done leagues. I had Bryson last week in mine. Run Rick Goods does the – I do the Run Rick Good that's your podcast partner, Patrick. I do his one and done league, and I'm in the top 80 now. So thank you, Bryce, and Colin the week before with a second.
Wow.
So hey, we're on a little bit of a heater. Let's see if we can get 2 in a row here, just to inflate my ego just a little bit here. We're gonna try it. All right, let's move on to long shots. Where if I'm gonna inflate it with outrights, the parlays have not gone well. So let's do the guys. Let's talk about the guys that actually hit their stuff here. Patrick, we'll start with you for your long shots. You got Jordan Spieth in here. Step Straka, I get. Go ahead. I guess you start with Straka. Go for it.
The utter disappointment in your voice. Yeah, I mean, I said at the top, Sepp Straka is a guy who has winning upside. He's playing like a top 15 player on the PGA Tour at the moment. Doesn't seem like he's getting priced like it. So the course fit is phenomenal for him. And it's a great course fit for Tom Kim as well. A lot of Sedgefield comps there where he ran away from the field for his first victory, playing good golf, right? He was in the mix at the U.S. Open for a while, kind of fell off over the weekend, played great in Canada as well. A golf course where it's shorter, right? Tom Kim's not the longest guy in the world. You got to hit your wedges close and you can make a lot of putts. That's his MO. And then I'm diving in. I'm not sticking a toe in. I'm not testing the waters at all. I'm backing up and I'm double bouncing on the diving board, triple axle, flip, whatever you want to call it, belly flop straight into Jordan Spieth, 55-1. We're doing it. We're doing it.
I don't even know what to say. All right, Sia, you have the guy that at 50-1 who won here going away last year. That's I would rather have that than Jordan Spieth. Well, Spieth has won here, so okay, go for it. Why Keegan Bradley?
Yeah, I actually forgot I had this on here. I do like it. I mean, but again, I was debating between Keegan, guys like Sepp Straka. The problem with Sepp Straka is I think we've lost that 50-1 number. I could be wrong there, though, because if I can still grab Sepp at 50-1, that's another one I'll just add to the card with Keegan. But here's the thing about Bradley. First of all, I think a lot of times when you go to like home course, hometown narrative, you're like, well, I don't know if that's going to be good or bad for him. Well, clearly it's good for him because he won last year. On top of that, we've seen some really good finishes lately, including the Charles Schwab Challenge where he finished second, which I think is, I don't know that it's a direct course comp, but I think there's comparable stuff there. That's a recent tournament, which by the way, he lost on approach there and he gained everywhere else, including with the putter where he's gained significantly 3 tournaments in a row. So you're telling me he can T2 at the Charles Schwab Challenge and finish negative in the approach department, and in the 3 tournaments before that he was great on approach. So I really think we can marry this ball striking with what seems to be a really hot putter in a place he previously won at. I know it's just Keegan Bradley at the end of the day, but if anybody's going to creep up on these guys at the top, I think it's guys like Sepp Straka. It's guys like maybe Tom Kim, guys like Keegan Bradley. I think Keegan deserves to be in that conversation, particularly because of what he did last year. He's not really getting the attention. I'll throw $10 on him at 50-1.
I know I made the mistake in the last segment. Rick Run Good. Sorry, I think I always confuse that. Yeah, sorry, Rick. I'm sure you're probably not watching, but if you are, my apologies. Watching. You have a great website, and I use it to come up with a lot of my stats. So thank you very much. How about these parlays? Joe, I understand you don't want to play my parlays, but I'm going to hit one of these days again. I love this top 10 that I found at DK. Finau and Brian Harman at plus 1,400. I love this one. It's all about Tony showing up. We know Brian Harman's going to show up. This top 20, we haven't talked about Russ Bus. That's another one of Patrick's favorites. I think he gained almost 10 strokes putting at Pinehurst, which is wild. You put him with Sahith and Sam Burns at plus 750 for a top 20 parlay. I like that a lot. So we're going to give those a shot and see if we can get on the board here. Now, I know Bryson won the U.S. Open, and it's a live week, lives in Nashville. Patrick, I know your board is blank, but I know what you wanted to do. I kind of, telepathically knew that you wanted to pick Louis at 20-1. So tell us why Louis is not going to win the tournament and why not to bet him in your outrights at 20-1.
I was looking at Louis. I was looking at Joaquin the Dream Neiman, of course, right? He's well rested, didn't play in the U.S. Open, but still playing great golf. But at the end of the day, I had a choice to make. Do I bet on Louis Oosthuizen, who's probably going to finish second in heartbreaking fashion, or am I going to bet Jordan Spieth at nearly triple the number and maybe get a sweat out of it for 6 holes? And so I decided on Jordan Spieth.
I don't even know what to say to that. All right, Sia, Taylor Gooch plus 1,200. Why are we rolling with him in Tennessee this week?
It's funny because I'm on Good Run Rick's website as well. And he's got live stats up here. As I scroll down and click on Taylor Gooch over the last 36, I probably should have narrowed the field there a little bit. But I'm looking at his finishing positions. They've been pretty good. It's been a little sporadic. There's a little narrative shopping here. Follow me down Narrative Street. I think Taylor Gooch is a good player, for one. I think he's been largely ignored this year because he chose to play on live, but he's seeing all these guys like Bryson and be successful on, in these majors, and he's no slouch. And I'm sure he's probably thinking, I gotta reestablish myself here as well. And the finishing positions, again, he's spiked here and there. I think plus 1,200 is a pretty short number, but I'm okay with it. I think Taylor Gooch is a good player. I'm not a big live guy. Everybody knows that. So please take this with only a couple of grains of salt. But I do think Taylor Gooch is live to win. I'm willing, again, with my live bets, to the extent I ever have them, I'm not dropping a lot of money. This is another probably $10 play on Taylor Gooch, but I like it.
Patrick, if you were to rank of all of golf, the top 5 best dressed, however you want to define that, would Sergio Garcia not be on that list?
He'd be in top 5 worst dressed. For
sure.
Oh,
come on. What are you talking?
Throughout his career,
great style.
He is a generational horrible dresser. Just horrible.
I saw the bright red pants on Friday in person. I'm like, I need to buy some of those. Okay. I need to buy some of those for one of the times that I host early. Those are a fashion statement. And so, I'm going with Sergio plus 2,000 at 20-1 here on DK. He was, that's the best number you can find him at out there. He was T12 at Pinehurst. He's been great with the driver and irons. The putter, just like it always has been. You never know. Finished twice at live events this year, almost won in Mexico. Start off the year, lost in the playoffs to Joaquin Neiman. So we're going to give him a shot, 20-1. How about Abe Answer? Tried it in Houston. Before that, he had a win in 4 top 10s in his previous 4 tournaments. Then he opens with a 75, which killed his chances, but still finished in the top half of the standings. So I appreciate that he came back there. He does lead live in fairway percentage off the tee at 68%. That is a good sign. And so we're going to play that at plus 2,800 best numbers at BetMGM. And then this, we're going to put a little half unit or whatever you want to call it on this parlay because I couldn't resist. Joaquin, as Patrick mentioned, top 5. Abe Answer, top 10. Garcia, top 20 at plus 850. Patrick, I'm relying on you. Neiman, get it done. This parlay is going to hit. If your boy Neiman gets this is a winner. I'm just telling you that. This parlay at plus 850. And it's, we're throwing it out there. All right, guys, final thoughts on the golf weekend. Sia, I'll start with you.
Well, I think, Patrick, you can correct me if I'm wrong. EC, maybe you as well. This is the last signature event, correct?
It is.
Yep.
Do we think or do we know if we're getting these quote signature events next year where the field is going to be abridged like this and there's going to be no cut? Have they made a decision on that yet?
The schedule typically, it's starting to get leaked, a little information. I'm not sure what they're going to look like, though. I hope they're completely different, to tell you the truth.
Me too. And so that's kind of like my take here is this is the last signature event of the year. I'm very much hoping They don't have to go to full fields, but I'm very much hoping there's a cut involved because I don't think the PGA Tour appreciates that. Whether you're playing DFS or gambling or not, I don't think they appreciate the fact that there's some, there's some drama to a cut. And so I'm hoping we don't get these like 70 person events next year. I'm happy to be done with the signature events.
Oh, that's a good take. Patrick, your final thoughts heading into the Travelers.
My final thought is I agree with Sia Nejad on everything. The take, the Rory McIlroy, the PR spin, right? Got to change the narrative if you're Rory McIlroy. So I'm following him into battle this week.
I did a little PR in my day, so I'm gonna throw that out there.
I can see it. All right.
And my final thoughts, Pinehurst, you were a champ. I mean, the result was awesome, but the course was great. And note, producer Jake, as I was texting you the other night, I would not break 150 on that course from the tips. I'm just telling you, there's no way. I know, Jake, Patrick, I know you'd probably shoot in the 80s, or if not lower. I apologize if that's insulting.
Whoa.
From the tips, okay. You don't think you what would you shoot from the tips in those conditions?
Couple under, maybe. Like, come on, man.
All right. Well, me,
80.
I'm shooting 150.
Sure.
All right, maybe 1.25. It still wouldn't. Listen, it was a tough golf course, but it was great, and I see why the PGA made it an anchor site. And one other thing, if you go there at some point, they opened the new World Golf Hall of Fame there last Monday, and I had a chance to go check it out. It is awesome. If you're a golf fan, and I assume that you are watching this program, it is definitely worth taking a look at. They did a great job on that, and it is on the grounds at Pinehurst. So definitely check that out. But guys, great show as always. We'll see if we can hit another outright winner. We've hit 2 in a row. We've hit 3 overall. Yeah. So can we make it 3 straight? Well, it's not going to be Tommy Fleetwood. It's probably not going to be Jordan Spieth. So we'll see.
So CNEC, it's up to you guys.
I made it. Hey, and I'm taking the easy way out. Guys, great show as always.
Wait a minute, real quick though. Patrick was the first one to hit an outright on this show. Was Jake Knapp? Correct me if I'm wrong. Was it 55-1?
65.
In the neighborhood.
Okay, I'm just saying Jordan Spieth is in that neighborhood as well.
It's my bread and butter. You guys will be getting a text this weekend from me. That's for sure.
Patrick, if Jordan Spieth wins,
here we go.
I will pay for a parlay of one of your outright picks with Sia's Tuesday pick on Early Edge next week in a parlay, and you can have all the money if you hit. So one of your outrights plus Sia's Tuesday Early Edge pick. I'm going to put that together, a $50 parlay. And I will pay that out to you if it hits.
How about this? How about a make the cut or finishing position parlay at the Open?
Done. I like it. All right. As long as Keith Mitchell is not involved. But if Grayson Sigg is there, yeah, he's welcome to be in that parlay. Guys, great show as always. Thanks to producer Jake. He does a great job behind the scenes. Make sure to like this video. Subscribe to the SportsLine YouTube page. Sia is on every morning with the Early Edge every Monday through Friday at 10 a.m. Eastern. Great content, great picks, especially when I don't mush them. So for Patrick McDonald and Sia Nejad, I am Eric Cohen. Thanks for listening. And as I always like to say, let's hit it big. Good luck.